Nation in Conversation, taking you on a journey through the South African countryside. Proudly sponsored by Monsanto, Nedbank and Senves, in association with Hinterland and NWK.
Hello and welcome to Nation in Conversation. We continue our journey through the South African countryside. We visit tourist destinations and local industries that add enormous value to the economy. The Ceres district is famous for its world-class fruit. Here's what you can look forward to in today's program. In Homegrown, we visit the DuToit Group and Keur, both crucial role players in the fruit industry within the region, dedicated to positively impact their community. During our In Context segment, we visit Keur's packing plant to showcase the process between farm gate and kitchen table. Burgess from Landbouweekblad also joins us to share his insights. Finally, during Dialogue, Mpumelelo takes the conversation forward with his guest in studio, economist Roelof Botha.
Ceres is only 90 minutes from Cape Town on the famous wine route and offers visitors unique experiences in this fruit paradise. Amongst them, the opportunity to stay on a working fruit farm or to explore the well-known Ceres fruit route. Even though the region is focused on the fruit industry, there are also numerous other activities that will make your visit unforgettable. Some of the attractions in Ceres are the scenic landscapes and outdoor activities like the Matruusberg 4x4 track, as well as other activities that will get your heart rate pumping, like the well-known Ceres zip slide tour. As can be expected in a small town, Ceres also boasts a beautiful small church, the so-called picture church, literally because it is so picturesque. The variety of accommodation and diverse menus available in Ceres are outstanding, and the Baba's Jam chutney shop is also a must-see for tourists. Did you know the road through Ceres was the main route to the diamond fields of Kimberley in the late 1800s, and visitors can still experience the old toll house in Ceres, a national monument. The DuToit Group is one of the biggest fruit and vegetable producers in South Africa and plays a critical role in the community of Ceres in terms of tourism, job creation and community upliftment. The farm has been in operation for more than 115 years, ever since Gijsbertus DuToit settled at Kromfontein. The DuToit Group mainly focuses on apples, but they also successfully produce pears, plums, cherries and more. We visited Pieter DuToit, Managing Director of the DuToit Group.
The DuToit Group produces roughly 250,000 tons of products per year. We employ about 8,000 people in high season, of about 4,500 permanent employed. Workers is very important in our lives. My grandfather started the philosophy that the worker needs to live in a safe home and need a good night's rest in order to do a physical job the next day. Because most of our job in the orchards and the fields are physical jobs. So as you can see in the background, the housing is good houses. But apart from that, we also need to look at the children, because most mothers and fathers are working in daytime, so we've got creches on the farms.
At the DuToit Agri, they give us homes that anyone can just dream of. Most of the people just dreamed of. We have a school. All our children, they walk to the school, no transport needed. Parents work without any worries about their children. The DuToit Agri invest in their people. They help building their life skills. They really improve in our quality of life. They build us, they enrich us our lives, and We are proud to be the DuToit members.
Apart from that, we need to do land reform, and we need to build black entrepreneur farmers in this area. So we, in this area, has got what we refer to as the PALS project, Partnership in Agricultural Land Solutions. Commercial farmers support this project and has presented 103 projects, of which 5 is already up and running. 15 we expect within the next 12 months, which will bring a huge transformation in the Witzenberg area.
Believe it or not, there is also another DuToit family in the Ceres district that plays a significant role in the community, and they are at the helm of Keur. Keur Group is not just another successful farming operation in the Ceres Valley. Yes, they supply apples, peaches, nectarines and more in bulk, but there is another key focus point that makes this business flourish. Keur is committed to making a difference within their immediate community. Danelle DuToit, whose grandfather started the business, tells us more.
The Keur Group is divided into 3 businesses. We've got the production unit that is responsible for all of the production of our vegetables and fruit on the various farms. We have a packing company that is responsible for the packaging of our fruit and vegetables, and we also have a marketing company that is responsible for marketing our fruit to our end consumer. We've got approximately 700 permanent workers in the 3 companies. We have about 500 to 550 live on the farm, so the communities on our farms, and that is where we will focus most of our attention from a community perspective. We have got various sports that the workers participate in. They have got a domino club, we have got a rugby team, the Lovedales, which is quite successful of late. From an early age, we accommodate the kids that live on the farm in a creche. So we've got about 40 kids that currently is in the creche from the age of 6 months through to the age of 5 years. And then we also have an aftercare centre where kids are assisted with homework as well as provided with additional stimulation.
Training programs are also very important to the Keur Group. Recently, one of their employees, Lawrence Balani, was recognized as one of the top 2 students in the country by AgriCETA.
I was given an opportunity by the Keur to do a foreman a learnership at Optiberg, and after that I was given an opportunity by the Keur to be in a group of 25 people who do the NQF4. I was nominated as the best student in class. I have 2 excellent foremen. I was given an opportunity, and I want to give them the opportunity I got. That makes me what I am today.
We also spoke to Arno Galant, a junior production manager at Keur, who told us about the importance of mentorship and what these programs have meant to him.
Mentorship is very important in the agricultural sector. There's so much the things that change, and we need to keep track what changes. So it's very important that you have guys that mentors you to make the right decisions and to make the right choices. On the producer side, I think nature is one of those things that nobody can predict. Every day there's new changes, and for us to be better, we need to change like Mother Nature is changing. And I'm actually blessed working at a company like Keur that give young guys like me the opportunity to grow within yourself and even though to grow in the company as well. Then one of my goals is to develop the people that works under me, that reports to me, to see them grow also.
Did you know an average apple tree in a successful producing orchard carries up to 405 apples?
Schools, sports, clinics, housing and development, all in aid of the workers and communities who build these businesses together. After the break, we visit Keur's packing plant and discuss the industry in more detail with Burgess from Landbouweekblad. Welcome back to Nation in Conversation. Remember to join in the conversation on Twitter and Facebook and share your opinion. The fruit industry in South Africa contributes greatly to the economy and needs to be recognized. With me is Burgess, editor of Landbouweekblad, to discuss this industry in more detail. Hello, Chris.
Thanks for having me.
Chris, with an undervalued rand, South Africa is in a great position to benefit from exports. Is this the case?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at the fruit industry, you know, it's really an industry of national importance. If you look at export earnings, and you look at the entire fruit industry, including citrus, you're looking at about, I think it's 22 billion rand worth of income. If you look at the deciduous fruit industry and you look at it in terms of turnover, you're looking at about 10.5 billion rand turnover, and then within that, the pome fruits, pears and apples, they make out about 8.2, which is around about 78% of the deciduous fruit industry's income. Yes, I mean, our main competitors, Australia, New Zealand, South America, I mean, we're all trying to get into the northern hemisphere markets in their winter. So that's quite a tough battle. But you know, there are markets in the Far East that we should be developing. But we really need the state to come to the party there. You know, we need to get access to those markets, and especially in the light of the fact that our competitors have free access. Where we have done really great work is Africa. The last time I checked, we were exporting more apples to West Africa than we were to the UK, and that's partly because you can. I mean, this is a gross oversimplification, but I mean, you can drop a bunch of apples on a lorry and drive them into Africa. And then, of course, you know, the transformative effect that the fruit industry has on the communities in which it operates is extraordinary.
Thanks, Chris. Before we continue our discussion with Chris, we visit the packing plant at Keur, just outside Ceres. This plant was purchased in 2001 in order for Keur to have greater control over the production and distribution process from farm gate to table. Let's have a look.
Imperative to the success of any fruit-producing organization is effective packaging and distribution. We visited the Keur packing plant just outside Ceres. This plant was procured in 2001 to afford Keur increased control over the products en route to the consumer.
When the fruit arrives at the pack house, it goes into cold storage, and there's strict ways and methods for the storage of the fruit. Then we pack the fruit. We've got a defect sorter, we've got a color sorter on our new Mafroda machine. And then we pack the fruit in certain cartons or certain bags. The fruit are packed by guidelines that's given to us by the exporters for specific clients and specific markets.
Today, this plant boasts the latest technology to ensure that the most effective methods are followed to guarantee top quality products with maximum shelf life. Did you know tomatoes, pumpkins and avocado pears are actually fruit? Of course, there are several aspects to consider even before the fruit arrives at the packing plant, such as input costs, orchard preparation and growth management. Charles DuToit tells us more.
To establish an orchard costs around 250,000 Rand to 350,000 Rand. There is some producers that put net over it as well, and that's a further 250,000 Rand on top of that cost. For us, we would like to see the first fruit in year 3 of an orchard's life, and hopefully by year 6, year 7 you will be in full production, and hopefully you see your returns in year 9.
Quality for the export market is extremely important. We have to adhere by strict rules set by importers and supermarkets all over the world. For us, quality starts on the farm, and to get your systems in place on the farm and let the systems run through the pack house and into the logistics chain is very important.
It's wonderful to see such a well-organized, successful farming business that does its part for the upliftment of the workers and the community. Back to you, Chris. What is the fruit sector doing to ensure its social sustainability?
Well, I mean, over and above the fact that that almost 500,000 people are dependent on the fruit industry right through the value chain, and those sort of jobs start with the 2,300 fruit farmers. I mean, you know, you just have to look at the Witzenberg project. It's a land reform project in the Witzenberg Valley. They're close to Ceres. Ceres is part of it. And basically, what they're aiming to do there is to put 3,500 hectares under fruit and to transfer to black ownership. So how it will happen? Oh, well, if you first just look at the investment, I mean, 3,500 hectares to establish 1 hectare costs about 350,000. So you're looking at a investment of about 1.9 billion rand, and then another 3 billion rand to create the infrastructure to support these farms. And this is all done by farmers. And the idea is to grow the value of our fruit industry, and to sort of grow the pie that everyone's got a share in it. And the idea is black farmers will then get 30% to start off with the option to buy out eventually. And there's a huge training effort to get these guys mentored, to get the managers trained right down to school children. I mean, that Witzenberg Valley is already educating about 8,000 school kids a year. The state's role in all of this is basically just enabler. So they facilitate the necessary water licenses to get these fruit trees under production. And it's just an extraordinary example of how the social compact in South Africa can actually work when it's sort of based on sensible business, when sensible business sense is applied to it, and the emphasis is on growing the pie as opposed to sort of redistributing the pie. And it's just an extraordinary example of what can be done in the country.
Thank you, Chris. As always, very informative, and we look forward to getting some more of your input next week.
Pleasure.
After the break, join Mpumelelo in conversation with Roelof Botha.
Welcome back to Nation in Conversation. Today we are talking about the fruit industry and its role in the broader economy as well as its value chain. With me in the studio is Roelof Botha, Economic Advisor to PwC. Roelof, welcome.
Thank you.
And thanks for joining us.
Pleasure.
Take us through the whole agricultural industry and very broadly summarize what its impact is in the broader economy.
Well, yes, unfortunately, you do find quite a number of press statements and statements also by people in official positions that tend to suggest that agriculture is not very significant for the reason that it's only about 2% of GDP, translating into roughly 84 billion rand in terms of its output value.
Yeah.
But that masks a lot of economic activity which relates to other sectors that would not have happened if it was not for the agriculture.
Yeah.
So if you track the agricultural value chain, it is the most pervasive value chain of any sector, and that holds for South Africa and most other countries as well.
Let's apply it to the fruit industry specifically. What would it pertain?
Well, in the fruit industry as such will have roughly the same value-added multiplier effect as most other products, except when it comes to exports.
Yeah.
Then that is magnified. But just to illustrate that 84 billion rand of output,
yeah.
If you take that through all the other sectors that are influenced by agriculture, like transport, logistics, wholesale, retail, finance, communication, etc., then that becomes, in terms of turnover in the economy as a whole, 1.5 trillion rand.
Yeah.
And I think this is terribly important for people to realize that if you take away the 84 billion, then you don't only leave that hole becomes unbelievably big.
So when one drinks juice at home, they must think big.
Well, they must realize that, they may be paying a certain amount. To give you an example, if you, the farmer gets maybe 50 cents for a really nice peach, but you pay 5 rand in a shop.
Yeah.
Now we're talking 900% markup here.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is that from the moment that peach gets picked off the tree until you buy it in the shop, a hell of a lot of stuff needs to happen. And once again, if you have to import that peach, these things, you know, they don't happen at the same rate. You lose domestic value added.
You know, it is often said, Roelof, that in South Africa we make the mistake that we export our commodities and then import the final goods from other countries who do the manufacturing and the processing. Would you say that in agriculture, especially in the fruit industry, it's different?
To some extent it is different, because food has, as you know, most food has a very limited shelf life. There's an example recently of a South African exporter of avocados whose trucks had to turn back because it just took too long to get through a border post. You know, those avos get ripe in a truck in the weather that we're having right now. So it is a little bit different.
So would you say our agro processing side is much more stronger, that we're able to produce, we're able to convert, original products to many other components and other consumables?
Yes, I think we are. We've got international best practice standards, and I'll give you my reason for that. Something amazing happened 3 years ago. We had gone into a period that lasted almost a decade in South Africa, where your agricultural exports and your agricultural imports were starting to, the gap between the two started to narrow. We had always been a net exporter of agricultural and food products. And that was threatened. South Africa's food security from that perspective was becoming threatened. And the last 3 years, we have managed to generate an agricultural trade surplus of more than 100 billion rand. It was unbelievable, the timing, because it happened at the same time when the iron ore price, the coal price, the gold price, the platinum price started, just continued falling. And we took a hell of a knock on the balance of payments. And the agricultural and food processing sector came to the party big time. And quite frankly, if I were a senior representative of this government, I would give them a medal.
But given our negative, balance of trade, you've just mentioned it now, surely it means that we have to do more to get this, this industry up there. Perhaps it can be the rescuer of the broader economy. What are the enablers that we should be looking at to get there?
Well, substantial international research has been done in terms of what needs to be in place for agriculture to actually not only produce stuff like peaches and maize, but also the value-added products, ultimately, that we buy in the shops, processed food as well, nicely packaged and such. And they grouped into essential enablers, important enablers, and useful enablers. And right on top of the essential enablers, right on top of the list, is property rights, security of property. And that is why the Zimbabwean agricultural sector imploded, because that enabler, that essential enabler, was literally taken out of the equation. We have that in South Africa. That's very important. Adequate infrastructure is another one that is terribly important.
Well, Roelof, we'll leave it there, but I think we need more cocktail parties so we can drink South African juice.
Not a bad idea.
Thank you, Roelof, for your time. It was very enlightening indeed talking to you. That was Roelof Botha, Economic Advisor at PwC. Join us again next time. Goodbye.
Thank you, Mpumelelo. Every week we see more and more success stories in agricultural businesses driven to make a difference in their community. We see the invaluable contribution that South African producers make in several aspects. Next week is no exception as we look at the sheep and lamb industries in the Beaufort West region. Until then, remember to exercise your rights as a consumer and join in the discussions on agriculture. It affects us all. See you next week. Goodbye.
Nation in Conversation, taking you on a journey through the South African countryside. Proudly sponsored by Monsanto, Nedbank and Senves, in association with Hinterland and NWK.